All right, what is up, everybody? New edition of the Players Lounge for you, brought to you by Heels4Life.org. I'm Joey Powell. Taylor Vippolis is here as always. Vip, appreciate you making the time, man. How is South Florida?
It is great. I'm sad that I'm happy that the season is coming close to a start, but I'm kind of sad that the Players Lounge is slowly coming to an end. But I think we have a couple of good ones before the season ends.
We've definitely got our work cut out for us today. Today's guest is Elijah Green, and you and I talked about this before we started recording today. If there's ever been somebody I'm excited to talk to on the current squad, it's this guy. One, because he's a good interview, but two, because he's got stuff to tell. And Vip, this might be one of those dudes that's coming after our jobs relatively soon. If he doesn't go into politics, I think Elijah, I think you're polished enough to where you could end up being a senator or something even bigger like that. But first off, I need to mention this show is brought to you by a partnership between Inside Carolina and Heels4Life. Heels4Life is the UNC football NIL collective. Graham Boone and his squad over there are doing a lot of great things for the UNC football team, not just helping them make money off of their likeness and their talents, but allowing them to be exposed to really cool opportunities in the community, plugging them in with nonprofit organizations to help them understand what it means to be a community citizen and a good community member. And if you would like to participate and be a part of Heels4Life, you can make a monthly contribution by going to heels4life.org. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's right there on the left side of your screen. You can't miss it. We've made it easy for you. Heels4life.org. Support UNC football players, and you're also helping to make content like this happen. So Vip, we're going to start with Mr. Elijah Green, and hopefully this is going to be a fun one. I'll let you get things rolling. Vippolis, handing it off to you, sir.
Elijah, so growing up, I was a huge Jets fan. I grew up
Yes,
in
sir.
Rockland County, New York. Your dad was a star for the Jets. How much did football play a part in your upbringing?
Football was huge in my upbringing, just like growing up and just being a huge Jets fan and going to the games as a young kid and being able to just see my dad and how he interacted like with fans and stuff, and walking into like MetLife Stadium and you see someone wearing like a 21 green jersey. So that's like really, really cool for me to be able to see that. And, football was always huge. It's kind of weird because like a lot of people would think that my dad would kind of force football on me, him being like a professional athlete and everything. But the first like pretty much half of my life, like I really have anything to do with football much. Like I didn't know anything really about it. I was more into like soccer, swimming. So football was nowhere on my mind. And actually the way I kind of started playing football was we lived in Tampa, Florida. My dad was a pro scout with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And my next door neighbor guy, right across the street, Landon, he played football and he was a little bit older than me. So I kind of looked up to him like a big brother, and he was playing football, tackle football. So I went to my parents and I wanted to be a lot like him. So I would go like, I want to play football now. Like we would be in the backyard, like tackling each other and running the ball. I think that's where I got my love for running the ball. But like started playing flag that year because of him. And then the next year we moved back to Georgia, and I asked my dad if I could play tackle football because I did flag the year before, and he was kind of unsure because he didn't know if I wanted to get into tackle so soon. He didn't start playing tackle football, I think, until his late middle school, maybe even high school. So he was really, really late to the game. So he kind of had that same vision for me that he would kind of keep me away from it until then. But I convinced him to play in third grade, and kind of that's where I grew my love for football and kind of started up developing. And wasn't a running back at first. I was a tight end and a D end. So, but I always knew I wanted to play running back. And I have a kind of a funny story. It was tight end. So I would beg my coach. I was like, I want to be a running back. Like, this is not my position. I'm a running back. I'm not a tight end. And one game, our running back got hurt, and I just went to my coach. I was like, just can you put me at running back, please, just for one play, and let me try it out. And I went in for that one play and I broke a 60-yard touchdown. And I was kind of running back ever since that day. So that's my kind of little story about how football kind of played in my life.
That coach probably takes a lot of credit for your success, even though it was you that put yourself there. A couple of quick points that I had. First off, Jets fans were built different. The Vinny
Mhm.
Testaverde days, the Chad Pennington days. Now we have Aaron Rodgers, so hopefully things are on the come up. But I also thought it was interesting. You said you wanted to start playing football because of your neighbor that you looked up to, and not
Yeah.
somebody who was on the All Jets decade team.
Yeah, no, it was kind of the thing that kind of got me started, and like, cause I wasn't really a big football fan too much. Like, this is kind of when I was like 8, 9 years old and didn't care too much about football. So he kind of introduced me to that. And then kind of when I went to my dad, I was like, I want to play football. Obviously I knew he was excited because he's like, okay, yeah, now we got him. But then kind of just going forward, like it wasn't until maybe 6th grade, I kind of went to my dad. I was like, Dad, like, I want you to start training me for real, and you to kind of show me the ropes and teach me everything you learned. Cause he was kind of hands off, like, let me enjoy the game, let me find the passion for myself and everything. And kind of took me to like kind of find that love. And I went to him and I was like, hey, Dad, like, you got all the tools, you got the keys. I want to learn from you. Tell me everything you know. And he kind of took me under his wing. And that's kind of when we really built that extra bond with football, and kind of he became my trainer, and throughout even till today. So like really, really thankful for him and kind of bringing me up. And through that, I feel like I developed so much just because of the knowledge that he had for the game and what he could instill upon me.
So we're talking with Elijah Green, running back for this UNC Tar Heels squad. Elijah, you finally get into football, and you're playing high school ball in Georgia, and we know Georgia is a massive hotbed for high school talent, and you guys won multiple state championships. How did being a part of that sort of winning culture mold your practice habits and how you handle winning or losing personally?
Yeah, so throughout high school, I think I lost like 4 games, and like from like sophomore year to senior year, I lost 3. So like that was a huge part of me, like just building that winning culture and everything. And I feel like us at Blessed Trinity, we did a really, really good job at kind of building that culture and getting everybody bought in. So like a big decision for me was finding a college that I felt like I could find that kind of sort of feel that I had in at Blessed Trinity. And UNC was one of those schools that I kind of got a similar feel that I felt in high school with that kind of culture of wanting to win, a culture that the team was really close together and the coaches really and genuinely cared for the players and wanted to help them succeed and have fun while they're playing the game. So, winning was really, really important for me. And, I kind of feel like that's who I am as a person. I'm a winner, and I'm going to always try to use what I've learned throughout the years to carry that along with me. And, because I kind of feel like winning is a culture in one person and can kind of encourage another person. And then that's builds a chain reaction to where everyone kind of buys into that culture. And I feel like that's what is common denominator among the best teams in the country, is that closeness and that culture that is built within and gets everybody on the team to kind of buy into that culture.
I want to come back to that thought in a little bit, but help our listeners and viewers understand what it's like being from an area that is such a hotbed for college football talent. I'm sure you had a lot of buddies who went to FBS, FCS, Division II, but played football collegiately. What does that do for you as a prep player, and how does that give you more pressure? Does that help motivate you, or is it just kind of, speaking to your point about culture, is it just one of those things where you grow up in it and then you're in it yourself?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's kind of the thing that you kind of grow up, and I feel like more looking at it, reflecting back on my high school career, like I really didn't understand how big football really was in Georgia until like I hear about like other schools. Like I thought it was common for like high school team, or like my state championship game, I had like 10,000 or 15,000 people. I thought that was kind of like a normal kind of thing, or like every single one of my high school games like completely packed out on both sides. And I kind of thought that was a kind of a normal thing until you really, really like talk to other people from different states. So I thought it was kind of cool to really learn about how big in football is a part of Georgia, and then to kind of carry that with me now and kind of have a little bit of pride, like kind of going around the locker room. I always kind of brag. I'm like, yeah, my team was probably the best team on in the locker room. Like we'll have debates like for hours at lunch, and no matter what, like whose team would have beat who and whose team would have won state. And like it's a huge conversation in the locker room. So I kind of feel like that's kind of a sense of pride for me and everything. And, you know, being from Georgia, I feel like it's important, and it's kind of made me who I am today.
I think from my playing days, those were always the most fierce debates at the training table.
Yeah.
The Buford boys, they would never stop talking about how good football was.
They're always going to talk. They're always going to talk.
You were a 3-star recruit out of high school, but what was the moment that you realized that playing D1 was a real possibility for you?
It probably wasn't until after my sophomore year, because kind of my dad and coaches in the past have always been like, you know, you're a D1 talent. You're going to grow up and play college football. And I never really believed it. I was always thought like, especially like my dad saying that, I was always like, oh, like he has to say that because he's my dad and he wants me to like feel good about like myself and my game. And kind of wasn't really until I got my first offer from South Carolina. And I was like, okay, wait, this thing like might be a possibility like of me playing college football, and I might have something. And, you know, kind of got me started and believing in myself, kind of going forward from that. So I never really believed in it until that starting point. And I was like, okay, now I got to really pick it up because this is becoming a possibility, and I need to do everything I can to set myself up and put myself in the best position to be able to go to the next level and then hopefully play in the NFL.
You mentioned earlier what attracted you to UNC initially, and you just said that South Carolina was your first offer. But what was your entire recruiting process looking like?
Yeah, so after my sophomore year, it was kind of like my breakout year. Had like 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. So started getting recruited. I was talking to a lot of different schools. UNC was my third offer. And you know, my recruitment was really, really picking up. I was talking to UGA and everything. And after my junior year, third game of junior year, I broke my ankle and I kind of lost like all kind of interest, and it was kind of silent. Like I was hearing from some schools, but you know, some schools kind of pulled away because I got hurt and I wasn't able to show what I could do that junior year, because kind of that junior year was supposed to be kind of a year of making, like kind of proving it again. Like it wasn't a fluke last year. Like this is who I am as a player. So that junior year was really big for me, and trying to increase that, you know, my stock and everything for the college level, and kind of fell off. And kind of going into my senior year, I was kind of looking at different schools and kind of who was still with me, even though I didn't really play in my junior year. So that's a little bit about kind of the journey that I had through the recruitment process.
So, Elijah, we're talking with Elijah Green, running back for UNC. This is part of the Heels4Life Players Lounge here on InsideCarolina.com. Elijah, you know, with your dad having the NFL experience that he had, what was his influence on your recruitment, and how did he speak into the process a little bit?
You know, he kind of just really, really preached about just the film is going to get you recruited, and not to get too much caught up in, you know, the hype and, you know, trying to chase offers, and just kind of staying focused on the main goal, and that's to play your best Friday. And, you know, being at Blessed Trinity, I didn't care too much about like the outside hype. I wasn't going to camps, and I wasn't huge on social media and whatnot. Like I was really, really bought into just winning another championship, and feel like kind of all of us at Blessed Trinity would have that same mindset. So, and my dad kind of agreed that, like, you know, those things are going to come, those offers are going to come, but as long as I can stay humble and kind of stay focused and kind of have that tunnel vision and block out all the outside noise, and knowing that as long as I put my best product every single Friday night on the field, then the offers and those things are going to come to me. So he kind of kept me grounded in that sense that, you know, I was going to end up at the school that I wanted to go to based off of what I did. So that was really, really important for me. And, you know, he played a really, really big role in kind of keeping me focused and keeping the main thing, and making sure that I was always always had my eyes set on what was the most important.
So you talk about your dad keeping you grounded while you're going through, your high school success and the recruiting process. How did he pick you up when some of those schools that were recruiting you disappeared and they ghosted you?
Yeah, after my junior year, we had a lot of different talks about because I was really really down on myself and really upset. I was thinking that I wasn't going to be able to play college football anymore because of this, and he kind of said something that's always stuck with me. It's just like, let the injury only affect you physically, because once it takes you mentally, and that's when you're completely beat. So kind of taking that, I was like, okay, this is just a physical injury. I can control my mindset about it and how I think. So I was like, okay, I'm going to come back stronger, and I'm going to come back better. I'm going to go even harder with my rehab and everything. And even though I'm not on the field, I'm going to be able to pick up and take care of my teammates, coach up the other running backs, and making sure that we don't have a drop off and that we can continue this winning culture. And it kind of took me to, not be selfish and be selfless and really kind of take a step back. Yes, I'm in the situation. Yes, it sucks. Yes, I might have lost interest, but the only thing I can control going forward is my outlook and my mindset. And it's not going to do me any good to mope and groan and feel bad about myself. I can just pick myself up and keep going and, keep that same focus, that same mindset that got me to the point that I was before the injury. And that was kind of the important thing that my dad told me to do. And, it helped me a lot being able to, gain my confidence and continue to believe in myself, even though a lot of people stopped believing in me.
Yeah, hearing that, that's such a mature mindset for somebody at the high school level. But as you get to Chapel Hill and you're on campus now for the Tar Heels, what was your welcome to college moment where you realized that you couldn't get away with some of the things that maybe you got away with in high school?
Yeah, I had a lot of them. I'm not even gonna lie. It was kind of like,
You got plenty of time for them.
yeah, we can be here all night if I talk about all the moments but it was even just like the first day of just learning the plays and uh, going through this, just the tempo. Like, I was gassed. Like, we would go from station to station, and I was just trying to keep up. I remember the first drill that we did, and it was like a ball security drill. We had the straps connected to the ball, and Coach Gillespie was pulling on it, and I think he got it out like 5 times. Like, I could not hold on to the ball, and I think it came to a point where I put the ball under my and I was literally clamping down on my helmet. I was holding it with both hands, like I was doing everything not to get it out. And it was that, and there was not catching the ball at all in high school, and then coming to an offense that's RPO offense, and then I get thrown a ball and I drop it. And I'm just like, okay, I got to work a little bit on my hands. And probably the last thing that I think about is we were in inside drill, and it was one of the last reps, and Coach Gillespie was like, hey, yeah, you can go in. And they had the first team defense out on there, but they had the second and third offensive line. And I think there's some miscommunication with the line and what exactly was the play was. So I'm getting the handoff, and all I see is Chaz Surratt just coming full speed. As before I even get the ball, he's already maybe a yard away from me. So I just take the ball, just clamp down on it and brace for impact. And he comes just knocks me on my butt. I'm just on the ground, and I didn't fumble. So my coach was like, you held on to the ball. Good job. And I was just I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, it's different here.
Hey, Vip, how many of the stories that Elijah just told, how many of them start with, we were doing inside drill and ...
Yeah, luckily I never had to do inside drill, but just so you don't feel alone, Elijah, my first day of practice, all the receivers went to the ball machine, and I had never gone to a ball machine. I would just always thrown with quarterbacks, and I don't think I caught one until about the 15th one. And Coach Brewer at the time was just yelling at me like, "Are you okay, son? Are you sure you're a receiver?" I'm like, God, get me out of here.
Oh, that is too funny. That is funny.
I appreciate your honesty and your willingness to open up with us, Elijah. Talking with Elijah Green here on Inside Carolina's Heels for Life Players Lounge. Um, Hoping you'll still continue to open up with us a little bit. Elijah, tell me about Bryce and what does he mean to you?
Yeah, so Bryce, consider him. I'm already getting emotional talking about it. Bryce, he's like my brother. He's like a brother to me. Grew up here in Georgia. He actually lived in Virginia, but moved here to Georgia, right down the street from my grandparents' house, and that's where I am right now. And he's my cousin, my brother, best friend, and so it was last summer, and he passed away tragically in a car accident, and that was really really tough for me. He was my best friend like my whole life. Looked up to him. He'd always give me advice. He was my biggest supporter, especially me playing football. And we did everything together. I would stay with my grandma's at my grandma's house the whole summer so we could hang out. We'd have hangouts. We go to the mall. We were huge into wrestling, so we would go into my grandparents' basement. They have like a little bit of a floor. We would set up a camera and we would do like WWE fake wrestling. Like that was, we would do this for hours. And I have videos on my phone of us like flipping each other. I think we broke a couple of chairs in my grandparents' basement and would try to like set it up and hope that my grandparents didn't notice. And yeah, we just had so much fun. We would play video games. Music was a huge thing that we did together. We didn't make, I think we have one of our first songs we made like 10 years ago, and it's kind of tough to listen to now. And but it was really really special to me and his brother Chase. So yeah, last year he died in a car accident on his birthday. And I remember I woke up, it was before conditioning, we had conditioning, and I saw like I had a bunch of missed calls from his little brother. And I thought it was weird, but just kind of went out throughout my day. And then kind of later in the day, he FaceTimed me again and I answered and he was crying. And he was just like, Bryce is dead. And I kind of paused. I was in the training room at this point. Like I didn't know what was going to happen, what he was going to say. And I just left, went to the locker room. I was like, wait, what'd you just say? Like I was just in complete shock, my head just in a daze. I was like in disbelief. And I was like, hey, like, bro, like, it's not something to joke about, because we joke about like stuff. And I was like, hey, this is like too far. Like, let's not joke about that kind of thing. And he's like, no, like, and he explained what happened. And, I just kind of broke down. Like that was something that was really, really tough for me. And it was kind of sad because a little bit like an hour before, my mom was texting me and she's like, hey, do you want to come home? And thinking back, like kind of why my mom was asking me like randomly why I wanted to come home. Like I was like, no, mom, like got workouts. I got a test tomorrow for summer class. And, I hung up, called my mom, and she was just crying. And, like we went on the phone for about like 30 minutes. I went to the bathroom in the locker room and I was just crying. It was really, really hard for me. And, I got a flight back home, and I don't know if he would want me to tell this, but Kevin Donnelly, Coach Donnelly, I went up to his office because I didn't really know who to go talk to and whatnot. And I texted him. I was like, hey, are you in your office? And he said, yes. So I went up to his office and I walked in and he's like, what's wrong? And just kind of broke down. And I really, really respect Coach Donnelly because he was there for me in that moment. And I didn't know who to go to, and I've always respected him. So he opened up his office to me and I was able to chill in there for a couple hours until my flight came. And yeah, just a little shout out to him because I really, really respected that he was able to do that and just be able to be comforting and be with me as I was going through one of the toughest parts of my life. And, kind of after that, it was really, really hard for me. Came home, had the funeral, and seemed like everything went really fast. And we kind of started up camp about 3 weeks later. And, I hadn't really, really dealt with all the emotions, all the things that went on with Bryce. And a little bit, I kind of thought I was fine, and I really wasn't. And it kind of took those first couple of days of camp, like I was just not the same. Like I just felt like I couldn't focus. I couldn't remember the plays. I didn't know the reads. Felt like I was just out there for the first time. And it kind of took me a second to step back and realize really what was the cause of this and what went on. And I hadn't really dealt with all the things that I had gone through with Bryce's passing. And, it's been the hardest thing for me. And, it took a little bit for me to reach out and get mental health. That's something I've been really, really big on because of my experiences about student athlete mental health and the things that we go through, because everybody's got stuff going on and a lot of people are crying for help, but they're not reaching out and asking for it. And I was one of those people. I didn't open up and ask for help. And, inside it was killing me because I wasn't the same person. I was kind of withdrawn from my family, my friends, and I would put on a persona like everything was fine when I was truly hurting. And it kind of took me to reach out and get help with our psych people at UNC in sports, and started talking to a psychiatrist and got a lot of great help that I will stand on, that I would not have been able to get through that without getting the help that I needed from talking to my family and finally open up about how I was feeling, having long talks with my mom and with my dad and my grandparents, and also like just leaning on my faith. And so it was a really, really tough for me, but I was able to kind of come on the tail end and, honor Bryce through everything that I did going forward. Life is so short, and sometimes we think that we have all the time in the world when we really don't. So just kind of trying to dedicate every single day, everything that I did to what he would have wanted me to do and how he would have wanted me to keep going, and how I said he was my biggest fan. He was going to come to all the games next year, and he always had a dream of playing basketball at UNC. Even like when we were kids, he was always like, yeah, I'm going to play basketball at UNC. So UNC has always been like kind of a special bond between me and him. And I just wanted to dedicate everything I did throughout my play, my season. So when I was kind of down in a slump and didn't know what to do, I kind of held on and latched to that I couldn't give up, and I had to stay strong because that's what Bryce would have wanted me to do.
Man, I appreciate your honesty and your willingness to be vulnerable with us. And so in that spirit, I'll share with you, I went through some dark stuff when I was in my early 20s too. And you've been such an advocate for mental health and seeking professional treatment for mental and emotional issues. What would you say to somebody who might be listening to this or watching this that's struggling with an emotional or psychological issue around, whether it's a trauma or a loss of a friend or something like that? What would you say to somebody who had that stigma around seeking professional care like you did?
I would say that it doesn't make you weak to need somebody else. Like, you're not weak because of your need to ask for help. It actually makes you strong because it takes strength to be able to open yourself up and get the help that you need. And we're not in this life alone. Like, all of us have somebody that we can go to that is willing and able and wants to help us whenever we're going through something. A big thing for me is you don't want to be a burden, and you don't want to be somebody that you feel like you're throwing all your problems on them. But I tell this to my friends, I tell this to anybody, like, I'll gladly carry the burdens and those problems of the people that I love. And I'm sure that the viewers and whoever's struggling with mental health, you have somebody that is willing and able to carry your burden, and you're not a burden, because these things that we go through, these things in life, it's heavy, and we can't carry all that weight on our own shoulders. So we can have a friend and phone a friend to be able to help us lift those things up. So I feel like in order to be your best self, the best version of yourself, the things that go on mentally can be some of our biggest walls put up, our biggest chains, our biggest captivity that we can be kept in. And in order to be happy and live our life to the fullest, we have to be able to release ourselves from those chains that we're holding back by not, talking about it and speaking up about how we're feeling.
And then for the most part, fans just see the result and they can get emotional when things don't go their way or their team loses. What would you say to fans that might not understand that you guys do go through lows like everybody else and that you're still 17 to 21-year-olds and you're people under that helmet too?
Yeah. I feel like there's an expectation for student athletes that we have everything like perfect going on for us. Like, oh, you guys get college paid for, you don't got student loans, you're not in debt, you get meals and you get all these cool things and you get to play the sport you love and you don't have to work and everything. But I feel like they have this misconception that we are some like superhumans and we're above everything else, but we're human just like everyone else. And we have feelings. We go through the same trials and tribulations. We go through the same day-to-day things with our family, with our friends, relationships, and a lot of things can impact our play, can impact what we do. And, it's tough balancing school, football, and then having to deal with everything that life throws at us. So I feel like a lot of people don't see how we're feeling and they don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But, every single athlete probably has a story like mine or has a story that's, impacted their life in some crazy way. And, it's important to be compassionate and, have understanding for every single person and know that we are all human. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. And that we're just still all trying to navigate this life like everyone else.
One of your trials that you had is you suffer an injury to your hand. You're playing with a club on it, which can make it pretty difficult being a running back and trying to secure the ball. How difficult was that entire process?
Yeah, that was probably one of the toughest injuries for me. Like probably even a little bit more tougher than like breaking my ankle, just because you don't understand like how much you use like your thumb and different things. Like I was trying to figure out how to brush my teeth and how to take a shower and just do simple day-to-day things. Like I couldn't figure out how to do it. Like I had to get help doing certain things. So it was really, really tough for me. And then being at practice, being a running back, and you have a huge club over your hand. So I always had to switch the ball to my left hand and everything. So, but it was kind of cool because I would still, regardless of my hand, I would still do everything else that all the running backs were doing. When we would go and we have a period where it's like running back and quarterback and we'll work on our routes and stuff, I was just still going through the routes as normal and catching just with my left hand, and I was catching them all. So I kind of think I kind of pride myself on that I didn't let it hold me back from getting better and continue to work on the things that I needed to work on. And, I felt like I could still develop and not let it be a crutch for me, but, use it as a strength and find the good out of everything that kind of went on. But it was really, really tough because it was really heavy and it would feel so tight and like it would smell like it was just like all the bad things that you would think about. Like it just was not a good situation. But and at first it wasn't as easy as like, how I'm saying it was. Like when it first happened, that was kind of when I was at my lowest as mentally and kind of as a football player because I lost my best friend. I wasn't playing football. Like I couldn't use my hand. I wasn't able to play at running back. And the doctors were like, yeah, this is going to be like a 12-week thing that you won't be able to get your cast off for. So they're like, you're probably not going to play for the whole season, for the rest of the season. And I'll be honest, I had some talks with my dad and he's like, hey, like you still got a red shirt. Is this something that you could potentially use? Is that something you want to think about? And this was like before I had like played that fourth game. He's like, is this something that you want to think about? Because, you don't want to waste a complete year of, having this thumb thing, you're not going to play running back at all. And, maybe we can redshirt and think about possibly transferring after the season. And when we kind of had that conversation, that was kind of like, I feel like the lowest part. Cause I was like, my whole life is about to be uprooted, and I didn't really know really much what to think. I was like, had a lot of decisions kind of on my plate, and I thought about it for a couple of days. It kind of kept me up. I was barely sleeping, and I would think about it constantly. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And it was on a Thursday. I was in the car, and I called my dad back, and I was just like, I'm gonna play the rest of the season. I was like, I got an important role on special teams, and I can make plays even though I have one hand. And I was just like, I'm not the type of player that's going to walk out on my team. And it's like, I'm gonna ride the season out because that's just who I am as a person. That's who I am as a player. Not want to back down on my team. It's like I need to do everything I can personally to help my team win, whether that's on special teams, whether that's helping the defense, preparing a scout team. I was like, Dad, I feel like I'm going to have a chance at some point in the season to be able to play running back. I was like, I don't know when, I don't know how it happened, but I was like, I just got a feeling that, I'm going to have a chance. And he's like, okay, well, we need to do everything possible to get ready for that opportunity. So went back that following week, went to the doctor. I was like, hey, is there anything else I can do to like get out of this cast? What can I do? I was just like, just take it off. And this is only 5 weeks off the surgery. He's like, after the breaking it, he's like, I don't know. He's like, this isn't smart. You run risk of, ruining your thumb for, the rest of your life. Potentially this can be something that is going to linger on as you're getting older and everything. And I was like, I talked with our sports medicine staff, talked with Luke, and we kind of agreed that I was kind of willing to take a little bit of a risk to be able to get out of the cast and move into just like a little splint on my thumb. And that he thought it was safe enough that I would be able to minimize as much risk as possible. But there's still always that risk that I could injure it even worse and would need surgery in the future. So we kind of made a decision. I was like, yeah, get me out of the cast, and got out of the cast, got into a splint, had a meeting with my coach. I was like, hey, got my cast off. I was just like, I'm going to be ready when you need me. That's all I said. And, played a little bit more on scout team, was solidifying a little bit more of a role on special teams and doing everything I could. And then it was 2 weeks after that Coach Longo came to me. He was like, hey, this was on a Friday. So I got moved off a scout team. I was getting a little bit more reps with the first and second team, and just kind of like rotating in and out of there because some of the other running backs got hurt. And he was like, if our run can't get started tomorrow, he's like, we're putting you in. And I was like, oh, I didn't know how serious he was. I was like, okay, like I'm going to be ready. So kind of prepared the same way I do as a regular game, and kind of got to the point on the sideline. And I didn't know that it was a real, it was a real chance of me getting in until like, I was just watching the game on like the complete opposite side of the sideline because I wanted like the best view of like the defense. So like I would go all the way to the end where like all the offensive players weren't. And like all I hear is like people just screaming my name, like, Elijah, like, get your butt over here. Like,
it's a scary feeling.
Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm watching the game. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? He's like, you need to be next to Coach Porter. You need to be down here with the offense. So I was like, okay, like maybe I got a shot of going in. So like Coach Porter threw me out for like 2 plays before the half. And then kind of in the locker room, Coach Porter came up to me and he was like, hey, we're going to ride with you for the second half. He's like, just make the most of your opportunity. And I was like, okay, like I'm ready. Like I've prepared. I've been working this whole time for this moment. So wanted to kind of make the most of that opportunity, and kind of went in and kind of took off from there.
So you were really in the bottom of the valley and dealing with loss and dealing with injury, and considering transferring and like having dark nights where you're not sleeping. And then all of a sudden you have 6 straight games where you're getting 50 plus rushing yards to end the season. Yeah. What's it like to go from, absolutely like just your 40 days in the wilderness, now all of a sudden hey, wait a minute, I found something. I found a home. Like I'm finding me again. Explain to us what that was like.
Yeah, it was really, really cool to kind of think back and just reflect on everything that I've gone through and just, you know, just looking back on thinking about Bryce and thinking about my thumb and, you know, before I got my first start against Virginia, it was like that night before I was just thinking on like, wow, like I've got all the way to this point, like after everything that I've been through. And, you know, it kind of proved to myself and showed me how resilient that I could be and, you know, that I was meant to be here and, you know, how far can hard work can truly get you. And, you know, I've always tried to be the hardest working person. And, you know, sometimes I always didn't get the results that I wanted. And sometimes it didn't happen as soon as I wanted it to. But, you know, just all the stacking the little days and working in the dark and doing things that people weren't doing things, it really, really gave me the confidence, I feel like, to be able to take those last 6 games and truly be able to put on the best performance that I could. And, you know, taking those things, I was, it meant a lot to me to be able to have that opportunity to do that and to show what I can do and, you know, try to make the most of the opportunities that I was given.
My
So
roommate in college was Mac Hollins. We were both walk-ons, and we quickly realized that the quickest way to get on the travel squad was through special teams and finding
Mhm.
a way through there. Can you speak on not only the importance of special teams, but how special teams is often a forgotten phase of football?
Yeah, no, special teams is huge. And I did not know this going into college at all. Like, I thought special teams was just like, you know, just a thing that you just do in between. Like, that's a kind of the part where people can go grab popcorn and eat the rest of their wing and eat the pizza and then start paying attention when like the offense and defense are on the field. But like special teams is such an important phase and a lot of young players don't understand this. And just speaking from experience, like coming in as a freshman, you're like, oh yeah, I was the best player in high school, and you know I'm going to come here and I'm going to get in the rotation, I'm going to play, and you know that's not the case for a lot of players, and that wasn't the case for me. And it took me a little bit to grow and really humble myself and be like, okay, how can I find a role on the team? If special teams is the way I can find a role, then I'm going to be the best special teams player that I could possibly be. And, you know, I feel like special teams really prepares you to be able to play offense and defense because of the speed of the game. It's the same speed of the game, and being able to get on the field and go through those things, have that contact, be on the field, it gives you experience and it also gives you a little bit confidence. So a lot of people kind of brush it to the side, but it's extremely important for development and finding a role when your role might not be on offense or defense. So that was an important thing for me, was like, even when I broke my thumb and, you know, playing running back wasn't an option at the point. I was like, I'm going to be the best special teams player as possible. I'm going to find every single role. I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to find a way to make an impact on the field every single time I'm on it.
The running back room for Carolina, it's arguably the most crowded in the Keenan Football Center. You have yourself, British Brooks comes back from an injury. You have the 2 true freshmen from last year, George Pettaway and Amarin Hampton. And you also have somebody like Caleb Hood who's been in and out of the rotation at times. How do you guys look at that room and try to make each other better?
I feel like it's really important for us. I feel like we have like one of the closer like position groups because we're all really, really cool with each other and we're all good friends. And I feel like we pride ourselves on how diverse the talent is in our group and how we all bring special things to the table. And I feel like we all try to use those things to compete with each other. So we're competing in the weight room, we're competing on whenever we're doing conditioning or testing times. Like, when you have so many talented guys in a room, you have no choice but to continue to elevate your game. And as you're elevating your game, you're helping other guys get motivation to elevate their game. So I think it's all about just making each other better and finding ways that we can impact the team. And, the better we are, the better the team is. So, understanding that and having so much talent there is always pushing you to a higher standard to continue to elevate your game.
We talked with Caleb. Yeah, we talked with Caleb Hood earlier this year, and Caleb was kind of alluding to the fact that all of you guys bring something different to that running back room.
Mm-hmm.
What's something you would like to improve on this year that that maybe somebody didn't really see as your super strength last year? What's something that you've been working on since the season's been over? To maybe elevate your game.
Yeah. Big thing that I've been working on this offseason has been pass protection. I had some opportunities to do pass protect that I missed last year and things that I kind of whiffed on. So that's been a huge thing on me, is just being more consistent in pass protection and making sure that's a strong suit of mine. That was probably the biggest thing, and the biggest thing kind of I took away from the season. And the next thing was more of working on my lateral quickness. I talked with some people and finding ways and drills how I can improve my lateral quickness. So was a big thing with my footwork and my twitch that I've worked on this offseason, that I've made a lot of huge strides in. So that was kind of the two things that changed direction: lateral quickness and that pass protection that I kind of identified as kind of reflecting and looking back on the season, watching the tape. And probably the last thing has just been, I've been really, really more invested in becoming a student of the game. Like, I've always worked hard and done everything possible physically, but it's been huge, like part of the mental game now for me is getting into the playbook and truly understanding the responsibility of every single person on the field, and then being able to even learn from other running backs. So I've watched different running backs around college football and, what they do good and how I can learn from them and what they do, what makes them so successful. So it's learning from other running backs and then understanding our scheme really like better. And I feel like that's really, really helped me develop a lot as a player this offseason.
Elijah, real quick, let's adjust your camera a little bit. You're kind of getting cut in half.
Yeah.
I know that shadows.
Let's see if this is.
That shadow's bugging you, so I want to make sure you feel comfortable while you're wrapping up with us.
Let's see if this is.
As long as it's not in your eyes, I think we're okay.
Yeah, let me move this light.
And while he's doing that, we're talking with Elijah Green here on the Players Lounge, brought to you by Heels4Life.org on InsideCarolina.com. Heels for Life, Heels, the number 4, Life.org. That is the NIL collective for UNC's football team. Elijah's been very open and honest with us, and it's been a pleasure to speak with him so far. Elijah, the next question I'll ask you, yeah, that's pretty good. Next question I'll ask you is, how does playing with a Heisman candidate affect your preparation and your practice for the game?
Yeah, we got the best quarterback in the country, and you don't want to let them down. So every time you're on the field, you want to make sure that you know your assignment and you fulfill your assignment to the best of your abilities. And having Drake on there, I feel like he elevates all of our games because it shows because of how he prepares and what he does to make sure that he is the best player and quarterback possible. I feel like it's contagious, and it makes us want to, hold ourselves to a higher standard and be able to elevate ourselves so we can help him and all of his goals and everything that he's got going on. So, having a guy like Drake is great, and how he's a leader and he's really, really been able to take initiative and continue to encourage the guys and bring our offense together has been really, really cool to see in this offseason. And it's been important for, our whole offense and getting a lot more continuity and chemistry between all the guys.
What were your first impressions of Coach Lindsay and Coach Clements, and what do you think they've added since coming to Chapel Hill?
I really, really like them. Me and Coach Lindsay, we have something in common because he actually coached in Georgia. He was a high school head coach at Lassiter, which isn't too far from where I live. So kind of have that same kind of thing in Georgia football. And just kind of when they came in, first meeting, they said, we're going to establish the run and we're going to be more downhill and more dominant in the run game. And, for a running back, my ears perk up and my eyes get wide because I'm like, okay, this is what I like to hear. This is what I came here for. So I feel like from day one, they established that identity is that we're going to pass the ball. We got the best quarterback in the country, but we also got a really talented running back room, and we are going to run the ball. And I feel like hearing that made me really excited. And, that excitement did not go away throughout the spring because this install and the things that he continued to bring to the offense, I feel like played to my strengths and played to a lot of the strengths of the guys in the running back room, and just the plays off of it, getting us out of the backfield, getting us in pass plays has been a really, really important and really cool dimension that we're doing this year. So I've been really, really excited that the things that these guys, that Coach Clements and Coach Lindsay have brought in, I'm really excited for you guys to be to see the product that we put on the field.
A couple of new coaches, but there's also times where you lose games and you're sitting in that locker room and you're just thinking about how much better you guys can be with players if there's more accountability and more player leadership. That was kind of the case from our 2014 to 2015 season in Chapel Hill. What does the leadership look like in your guys' locker room, especially like last year when things aren't going your way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the leadership has really developed throughout the last year because obviously those last 4 games were not who we are as a team, and we had to sit back and figure out how can we finish off the season that we could have easily won 12, 13 games based off of how the season was going. So how can we stay strong in the fourth quarter? How can we finish those close games? And that's been huge for us, and a mentality that we've brought into the weight room, into our conditioning. It's like every single time that we're on our last rep of conditioning, and we always hold up fourth quarter because of how important it is, and being able to reinforce that with the guys. And, I've tried to speak out as a leader and become more vocal, and a lot of other guys have been able to step up and become more vocal, and knowing that a player-led team is going to be the best team in the country, because if it's coach-led, you don't have the passion, you don't have the drive of those players. But when it's player-led, that's when guys really, really buy in because they know everything about the team. They know the ins and outs. They know how to get guys going. They know how to motivate. And I feel like those are the best teams in the country. So how can we develop that culture? How can we figure out ways to be more player-led has been huge for us this offseason. And I feel like we've made a lot of development in that aspect because I feel like our team's a lot better led, and we have some leaders on the defense, on the offense that have really stepped up.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the player-led aspect of it all, because that was one of the biggest things for us in 2015, where when we got to training camp, we kind of looked around and we were like, it doesn't matter who's coaching us. It doesn't matter what play calls come in. We are just going to find a way to win. And I think that's why we were so successful, is because the players took kind of that ownership of our team and wanting to be prideful of what we were putting out there on the field. And I think you guys do have a lot of those same characteristics when I watch you guys and when I listen to some of you guys talk.
Mm-hmm.
So, $1 million question, Elijah. What do you expect from this year's team?
Mm-hmm. I have huge expectations for this team just from what I've seen throughout the spring and throughout the summer. I feel like the sky's the limit for this team, and we're all really, really bought in, and we're really excited for what we're going to do this season. We're not going to speak too much on it because our play is going to show how motivated and excited we truly are. But we have high expectations for us, and we're going to continue to elevate those expectations and continue to get better throughout training camp. So we're ready for that first game.
And you mentioned it earlier, how are you guys turning last year's finish into motivation for this year? You mentioned holding up the 4 at the end of each practice rep and conditioning rep, but what else are you guys doing, whether it be as a position group or as a whole squad, to kind of take last year's end and use it to motivate you?
I feel like it's just having that mindset of finishing kind of like fourth quarter and remembering. I feel like the important thing is to remember the bad taste that we had in our mouth at the end of the season. And I use that as motivation. A lot of us did not feel good at those last 4 games. So it's kind of more about reinforcing how we finished and what it felt like and how it could have been completely different if we, finished those last 4 games. So I think more of it is about reinforcing and remembering it and using that as motivation to be able to push us. So when we are in those situations this season and when things are tight, that we can continue to remember that feeling, that bad taste in our mouth, and continue to push and prevail through.
You've been real gracious with your time, so we're going to have some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Before we get you out of here, who is the player that people aren't talking about now that they'll be talking about once the season starts? Could be offense or defense.
I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Elijah Huzzy.
Okay. Dude, have we gone like 100% with people saying Huzzy on that same question, Vip?
Yeah,
you guys are hyping him up right now.
So. Yeah. I'm gonna say Elijah Huzzy. He's a great player. I feel like he's gonna surprise everyone this season.
And then what is on Elijah Green's pregame playlist?
Pregame playlist, mostly Lil Baby. Yeah, probably just I'll put on My Turn by Lil Baby and play the whole album. That's usually what I'm listening to.
That's another popular answer. They'll probably tell there's a lot of Lil Baby bumping in the Keenan Football Center locker rooms pregame. So me and Vip and Elijah Green are going out to dinner. No bill. Where are we going?
We're going to Capitol Grill.
It's over in Raleigh.
Yeah, that's my favorite steak place. Like the porcini rub ribeye is like to die. It's so good. Gotta get it cooked medium rare. That's if you get anything past, I'll say medium should be the most that your steak's cooked. I go to dinner with some guys and they ask for like medium well or like well done.
Savages.
No, you're ruining the steak at that point. If you're gonna get a nice steak, it's got to be medium rare. I'll stand on that every single time.
Yeah, we can't hang out with rubes that are getting like their steak well done. You're absolutely
no, can't do that.
All right. Who is the best roommate on the road?
Best roommate on the road? What do you mean, like just like as we're traveling to games?
Yeah. When you guys are traveling,
or training camp.
Yeah, like who's somebody you'd love to room with?
Yeah, definitely British Brooks. That's always been my roommate for like all the bowl games, for all the games, for and for training camp last year. Yeah, me and British, he's one of my best friends on the team, so it's always fun to room with him.
What do you like to do outside of football? Because you guys spend so much time in that building, and it's always football. But what's Elijah like off the field?
I like to play golf. I've gotten a little bit bigger into golf because a lot of the guys have taken it up on the team. So we actually had like a golf tournament this past spring, and we had like a whole Masters tournament, like a football Masters. So a lot of us are playing golf. So that's something I've been really, really big into this spring. I like to play golf. I like making music. That was something that I did with Bryce, and I've continued doing it even after he's passed. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. And then just spending time with my friends and my family and, just relaxing. Usually when I'm not busy, I want to be able to sit down and get off my feet because I'm on my feet doing something all the time. So being able to turn on a Netflix show, turn on something and really just chill.
All right, and last one, and we'll let you get out of here. And Elijah, you've been very, very gracious and open with us, and we really appreciate it. What does NIL mean to Elijah Green? Help us understand how that has affected your life and your tenure as a college student.
I feel like it's just giving us the opportunity to really maximize our time that we have in college, and I feel like a lot of people forget that we have lives outside and we have different obligations of things that we have to take care of, whether it's rent, food, and everything that isn't always covered. And, I just have an opportunity to be able to use our image and likeness to be able to make money. I feel like is really, really important because we work so hard. It's like we got longer than a 9-to-5 job. So just being able to just, get a little bit of put a little bit of value on what we're doing, I feel like has really, really been cool to be able to see around college sports.
Well, you've definitely brought value to this show, and I'll let Vip speak on his own, but I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you and feel smarter and definitely feel like I've got a whole new perspective, at least for you, and I know Bryce is proud of what you've turned your career into thus far. Vip, you got anything for Elijah before we get out of here?
I was going to say you're a junior now. If the NFL doesn't work out, you could always come back and be my podcast co-host. Love talking.
I you know what? I'd gladly bow out and just hand it off to him. I know when
I'll take over your spot.
I know when I'm whipped, man. It's all right. Well, Elijah, we appreciate it, man. I know that everybody listening to and watching this is going to be rooting for you, especially coming up this season. Here's hoping that you have a healthy camp and that the season turns really good for you.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys.
All right. That's Elijah Green. Heels for Life Players Lounge. Again, heels4life.org. Go check them out. Be a contributor. You can support people like Elijah and his story and his teammates who also have stories. And hopefully you've appreciated hearing those as we've been doing this series throughout the summer. But until next time, for Elijah Green, for Taylor Vippolis, I'm Joey Powell. We appreciate you being a part of this show here on InsideCarolina.com.